Hello everyone. In this channel we do things a little differently. Focus on bringing you the most fascinating events from human history in as short a time as possible. So if you're ready to get them brain cows milked, then hit that subscribe button and come along for the ride. Today we're going to be looking at one of the most famous countries in the world, Egypt. And for once it won't be about pyramids. No. Today we're going all the way back to the beginning. That's right, we're going predynastic. All the way to the birth of Egypt, and follow her story through until the present day. Are you excited? I know I am. Let's do this. I'm not really sure when exactly Egypt began. It was such a slow process that there wasn't some great moment where one could point and say, aha, here is the start. But to keep it simple, we'll go with the generally accepted date of around 3100 BC now before we go any further. We should probably learn a lesson from our friends over at Mesopotamia and make sure we define what we mean by Egypt, so we don't accidentally include bits of Sudan or something. So we're talking specifically about this area of the northeastern corner of Africa. Situated at the mouth of the River Nile, the earliest record of human activity in Egypt comes from around 40,000 years ago. But these were just nomadic hunter-gatherer types. The real action starts with the development of agriculture around 8000 BC. This allowed people to settle down and form villages and eventually small kingdoms. Two of the most important of these early settlements were Upper Egypt, centered around the city of Thebes, and Lower Egypt, centered around the city of Memphis. These two regions would go on to be unified around 3100 BC by King Menes, who would establish the first dynasty of Egypt. From the beginning, Egypt would be a kingdom ruled by a pharaoh, both a temporal and spiritual leader. The pharaoh was considered a god king, and as such had absolute power over his subjects. What followed was a golden age of peace and prosperity. Egypt would go on to have 30 dynasties of kings with only 2 interruptions. The first intermediate period between the 6th and 8th dynasties, and the second intermediate period between the 9th and 12th dynasties. During these periods, Egypt split into several small warring states, but would always eventually reunify. Egypt continued to thrive throughout the New Kingdom period and into the late period, when Egypt came under the control of the Assyrians and then the Persians. In 332 BC, Egypt came under the rule of Alexander the Great. He would found the city of Alexandria, which would become the capital of the Hellenistic kingdom of Ptolemaic Egypt. The Ptolemies were a Greek dynasty descended from one of Alexander's generals, and they ruled Egypt from 305 BC until 30 BC, when Egypt was conquered by Rome. Egypt would become a province of the Roman Empire and its capital. Alexandria would become one of the largest cities in the empire. Egypt continued to thrive under Roman rule until the Arab conquest of Egypt in the mid-7th century AD, but we'll get to that in a minute. When Christianity began to spread across the Mediterranean, it quickly found a home in Egypt. In the year 297, the Library of Alexandria was destroyed during a riot between pagans and Christians. Emperor Diocletian blamed the Christians and began the first official persecution of Christians in the Roman Empire. In 640 AD, Egypt was conquered by the Rashidun Caliphate, an early Muslim dynasty. The Arab conquerors were led by Amr ibn Alas, who captured the city of Alexandria in 645. Following the Muslim conquest, Arabic became the official language of Egypt. The Old Egyptian language continued to be used in religious texts for a long time. Though it fell out of use in everyday life, the Coptic language, a descendant of ancient Egyptian, is still spoken today by the Coptic people, an ethnic group native to Egypt. For the next few centuries, Egypt would remain part of various Muslim caliphates until the arrival of the Crusaders in the 12th century, as part of their holy war against the infidels. Crusaders seized the city of Jerusalem in 1099 and soon began eyeing Egypt to the south. In 1164, the Crusader king Louis VII sent an army into Egypt, led by King Baldwin III of Jerusalem and the famed Richard the Lionheart. But the invasion was ultimately repelled, and the Crusaders retreated. This event is often referred to as the Second Egyptian Crusade. In the late 12th century, Egypt came under the control of the Ayyubid dynasty founded by Saladin, another name for Salah al-Din Yusuf, a Kurdish general, who had previously served the Zingids and the Crusaders. Saladin is a legendary medieval warrior, perhaps best known for his defeat of the Crusaders at the Battle of Hattin in 1187 and the subsequent capture of Jerusalem. After seizing control of Egypt, he quickly set about uniting the rest of the Muslim world under his banner and freeing it from Crusader domination. His efforts culminated in the Siege of Acre in 1189, a 3-month siege that ended with the city falling to its Muslim forces and securing the northern borders of Egypt. After Saladin's death in 1193, Egypt passed to his son, Al-Aziz Othman, who reigned from 1194 to 1218. Othman's reign saw a decline in stability and security within the kingdom, leading to a decrease in trade and economic activity. Al-Aziz also alienated the Christian population of Egypt through heavy taxation and forced conversions to Islam. In 1218, the throne passed to Al-Kamil, the son of Saladin and grandson of Amalric I. Unlike his predecessors, Al-Kamil enjoyed a relatively peaceful reign. He focused on improving relations with European powers and promoting trade and cultural exchange. In 1223, he granted a royal charter to the European merchants of Alexandria, protecting their rights and granting them exemption from customs duties. But let's be honest, we're all here for the Mamluk stuff, aren't we? Well, I hate to disappoint, but we've got a ways to go yet. In 1250, Egypt came under the control of the Mamluk dynasty, a dynasty of Turkish slave warriors originally brought in by the Ayyubids to serve as soldiers. The Mamluks quickly rose to prominence, however, and eventually seized power in 1250. The new dynasty ushered in an era of political stability and economic prosperity. Mamluk rulers were avid builders, constructing mosques, madrasas, and public buildings across Egypt. One of the most notable Mamluk rulers was Sultan Hassan, who reigned from 1293 to 1314. During his reign, Egypt reached the height of its cultural and intellectual achievements, becoming a center of Islamic scholarship and trade. By the 15th century, however, the Mamluk dynasty began to decline, weakened by internal rivalries and external threats. In 1517, Egypt came under the control of the Ottoman Empire, marking the end of nearly 300 years of independent rule. Under Ottoman rule, Egypt became a province of the empire and was incorporated into the Ottoman administrative system. The Ottomans continued the tradition of military conscription, drafting soldiers from the local population to serve in the Ottoman army. This policy proved to be unpopular and led to several rebellions and uprisings. Throughout the 16th and 17th centuries, despite these challenges, however, Egypt remained an important part of the Ottoman Empire and continued to play a significant role in regional politics. In the early 18th century, Egypt experienced a period of renewal under the rule of Ali Pasha, an Albanian Ottoman official who was appointed governor of Egypt in 1735. Ali Pasha implemented a series of reforms aimed at modernizing the Egyptian economy and military, including the introduction of new crops such as cotton and the establishment of a navy. He also built up an elite military force known as the Janissaries, which became a powerful instrument of his rule. Napoleon invaded Egypt in July of 1798, hoping to establish French dominance in the region. Napoleon's invasion force was defeated by British and Ottoman troops at the Battle of the Pyramids in 1801. With the Treaty of El Arish in 1805, the French were forced to withdraw from Egypt, leaving behind thousands of troops who were captured or killed. The Egyptians and British were allies in this conflict, but after the French left, the British decided to stick around. They seized control of Egypt in 1801 and held it until 1840. In 1840, Muhammad Ali's grandson, Abbas I, ascended to the throne of Egypt. Abbas continued his family's legacy of modernization and reform, focusing on improving infrastructure, education, and public health. Under his rule, Egypt became the first country in the Middle East to introduce a postal service and a railway. But that's all I've got. That's the history of Egypt from the very beginning to the present day. A lot happened, obviously, and I'm sure you want me to talk about more of it. Well, luckily for you, I did talk about a bunch of it in a previous video. Check it out here, and let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I shall see you in the next one.